We're seeing this burst of high-level engagement between top diplomats, U.S. and China. We had the Secretary of State Marco Rubio with Foreign Minister Wang Yi, phone call there, the defense chiefs as well, and now together with He Lifeng in person in Madrid. First, let's talk about the meeting that we're expecting from the U.S.-China first in person before I ask you about Trump.
Sure. Well, I think the momentum, as you have said, is starting to build towards a meeting between President Trump and President Xi. The key meeting here, I mean, the dialogue has started between Wang Yi and Marco Rubio, and other dialogues are happening. As I understand it, there has been an official invitation given to President Trump, and so the discussion is starting in earnest. Really, the key meeting and discussion will be with Secretary Bessent and He Lifeng, trying to sort out what is the size of the package, the gift, if you will, that President Trump is hoping to obtain in order to justify his visit likely to Beijing. And the contours of that package will really be the determinant. Now, my colleagues and I at the Asia Group were trying to figure out what's going on. It seems like, 2 out of 3 chance that this is going to happen, but it's not a done deal, and really the contours of that package will be the main determinant of whether the visit happens or there's some other format for Xi and Trump to get together.
Any guesstimates on a number? We've seen 500 billion, we've seen 350 billion. Could China's be even more? Do you expect it to be more?
So I don't think that China will volunteer to have an investment fund in the United States. And most China hawks in the United States don't even want Chinese investment. So that's not really on the table. There's a lot of things that aren't on the table. Tariffs are not really on the table. The U.S. likes the high tariffs, and China has met them largely, and that was probably going to stay in place. Technology is not really on the table either, where the U.S. has pulled back on its technology restrictions in response to China's pressure on critical minerals. And that's also kind of at an equilibrium point. So what is on the table would be purchase agreements, things like airplanes, soybeans, and the like, possibly a purchase target, soft purchase target for China, saying this is how many hundreds of billions of dollars we're going to buy in new U.S. imports, and maybe, although not likely, a Chinese commitment to cut down on exports to the United States in a quantifiable fashion in order to deal with the overcapacity problem. That is the contours of a package. It's if they can get a lot, it would be a significant, not a history-changing package, but it would be a significant package and certainly justify the president going to China.
I want to ask about this APEC meeting. It could happen before or after. Do you have any indications or suggestions on that, on when the meeting could take place? And also, you were the former ambassador to APEC. How would you rate the U.S.'s role in this organization now, given all that's happened and, how the U.S. is acting very much on its own now? It wants to be isolated.
Yeah, so in terms of timing, what the Chinese side has proposed is for President Trump to visit China before going to APEC in Korea. There is a meeting in Malaysia, the ASEAN leaders meeting that President Trump could go to. Not sure whether that's going to happen or not. So the sequence that China's aiming is to meet with the U.S. first and then have both leaders go to Korea, where they would see each other again. In the APEC context, the United States is now, it's fair to say, following a largely protectionist agenda on trade. APEC's raison d'etre was free and open trade and investment. And the Bogor goals, that's an old statement from all the way back from 1994, of seeking free and open trade and investment is still the operating philosophy of APEC. The U.S. has walked back from that. China never really joined it. And so APEC has become more of a discussion group for geopolitical issues and then for technical economic issues. Still accomplishes some significant work in that area. It's also, if I could add, a playing ground for non-China, non-U.S. economies to talk to each other about what to do in the current circumstances.
So that'll be an important meeting for those players.
Indeed.
We're also watching President Trump, where I remember very distinctly when he had warned BRICS countries not to formulate any anti-American policies and that they would be tariffed if they did that. Now we have President Trump going around to the EU, asking the G7 to put tariffs on India and China for their purchases of Russian oil. I want to get your take on whether or not you think that G7 will listen.
I think only to a limited extent. I don't anticipate the G7 countries will go along with the U.S. approach on the very aggressive approach towards India on the Russian oil question. And the U.S. is kind of in a one-on-one game of chicken with India in this regard, where they're looking to for India to blink and at least lay out a plan for reducing their imports of Russian oil. And India is fed up to here with the United States at this point on multiple levels, and has not yet indicated any willingness to do that. But they probably will need to come up with some solution to this problem in order to get to a trade deal and restabilize the relationship. Right now, things are very, very testy between New Delhi and Washington.
Back to U.S. and China, and there is now an expectation that TikTok is going to be part of the discussions again. Do you expect President Trump to just kick the can down the road and just continue to extend until a buyer is found?
I do. And to add to the earlier discussion about what would be in the package of things which would be discussed for a Trump-Xi meeting, TikTok's definitely in that discussion. China is likely to lay out some kind of action plan on fentanyl interdiction, which could lead to a reduction in that tariff over time, probably not in the immediate future. But the TikTok issues is very much front and center for the United States, and the question that Secretary Lutnick was highlighting earlier is a key question for the U.S. is what is the shape of the algorithm? Who has control of it? Most importantly, what about the data? There have been many proposals for how to structure a sale of TikTok to an American buyer that satisfies both sides on that front. But it will require Chinese government approval, as well as approval from ByteDance, the people that own and run ByteDance. That's a heavy lift, but I think it's quite possible that we could see a deal in the next couple months.
What is your take on the NASDAQ and its now $25 million IPO minimum for Chinese companies that want to list in the United States? Do you find this discriminatory?
Well, it's discriminatory in the strict sense of the word. It's discriminatory, certainly. I think that NASDAQ is responding to the discussion that you hear a lot of in the United States, that the Chinese companies that are listing in the U.S. are not fully transparent about their home market situation. Now, the U.S. and China have had lots of discussion on that. There was a breakthrough during the Biden administration in terms of the information flow about the listed companies, which led to a reassurance of their presence in the U.S. But it's no secret that the new Chinese IPOs in the U.S. have slowed to a trickle, or even less than a trickle. And I think this is more NASDAQ kind of demonstrating that they're aware of the issue and coming up with a minimal measure to participate in the due diligence around listing companies.